Rick and Ray, I really want them to be.
Right.
It just sounds like a show, right? Tonight, the Rick and Ray show.
Cooking class.
Clean like Rick and Ray, I really want.
Oh, no.
Do we need Juniper? She came and fixed it.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait, did you say the heat?
I think she goes
There
home.
was no heat. We got here early. It was really cold.
Oh, I thought they always turned off the heat on them.
I thought it was always in that
freezing.
heated space.
That's why I wore my best sweater today. Because
Hey, Rick,
it actually feels pretty warm.
can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yay.
You're quiet.
Barely. Is that cranked up?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'll make it louder. Hold on. I want you to be happy.
Will you turn up your mic?
Turn this up.
There must be a button for that.
I wonder, Audra, if we can make her sound, Rick's voice go through the owl, is that a thing?
No.
How's that?
yeah.
It's only
In,
okay.
yeah.
Well,
We'll keep an eye on you to see if you raise your hand or something.
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
better.
that's good.
Okay, so we have Rick, do we have Ray?
No, but he knows. I've been emailing him.
Okay. Well, let's start, because it's already 4:16. Good afternoon, good to see everyone, both on Zoom and in person. So we have a good agenda today, and we have a co-chair, Tyler. And I'm gonna let Tyler do the roundtable intro or icebreaker.
Sure. Sure, so similar to what Elfie did last week, this is kind of getting to know people. I think it's important as we work through issues, because everyone has different backgrounds, have lived in different places, have different experiences before they came here, join this meeting, or live in Camden or Rockport. So what we have, Rick, you can't see it because it's off your screen, but we have a map of the world and a map of Maine over here. And I have a bunch of dots in front of people. And what I'd like to do, and I'll start us off, is just take 3 dots, doesn't matter what color they are, and choose 3 locations on there to kind of talk about something in your life that happened there. So where you were born, where you went to school, where you've been on vacation, where you want to go on vacation. Could be anything you want, but just to give a background. So I know, like, I know Courtney, I had a connection with her the other day that I didn't know existed. So I'm going to start us off. I'm going to put 3 dots here on. The first one is going to be on the Seattle area. So I worked out in Seattle as an engineer for Boeing for about 10 years, just north of Seattle in a city called Everett, Washington. So I worked on no baby planes, no 737s, just 2.5. So 777s, 747s. I'm also putting a dot on Sydney, Australia. I have an older brother that lives in Sydney, Australia. So I've been down there about 8 or 9 times. So kind of fun to visit. Last time I went, when I landed, it was, I think, 115 degrees.
Ooh.
And it was like the day before Christmas. And so when I got off the airplane, there's like this guy like fully dressed in a Santa costume, standing outside in like 120 degree weather. It's pretty crazy. The third sticker I'm putting is Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I went to grad school, and Georgia Tech, right in the center of Atlanta, Georgia. So
Cool.
those are my 3 stickers.
All right. Hey, do you want to stay up and do Rick's?
Sure. Rick, do you have any locations that mean anything to you?
Either in Maine or in the world?
3 locations, huh? Well, let's put Indianapolis, Indiana. That is where my wife is from,
Yeah.
and she convinced me to move out there. No, actually, she didn't. I undertook to move out there to live with her, and that's where I went to law school. Decided that corporate journalism wasn't for me, and convinced my wife to move back here afterwards. Let's see. How about Crested Butte, Colorado.
Crested Butte,
Crested
Colorado, okay.
Crested Butte, Colorado is the first place I ever skied in the West, and made me come to realize that everything that the Western skiers say about skiing in the East is true. It was amazing, and my wife and I had a chance to travel out there quite a few times before children, and actually once with our two older ones when they were little. That was pretty great. Third, my goodness. How about, oh, I don't know. Here we go. Inverness, Scotland.
Where?
Inverness, okay.
Top middle of Scotland that isn't an island or a weird peninsula off to the left. It's the basically where the inland waterway with all of the locks are, where it basically empties or into the, I guess it's the North Sea up top. That is a place that my family and I were fortunate enough to vacation a few years ago when my father-in-law was still with us. And we ended up taking this barge cruise basically from Inverness down south and west through the Highlands of Scotland, and finished in some city that began with a saint. And anyway, it was the most amazing vacation I've ever had. Hope to do it again at some point.
Cool. All right, thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Do we want to take on Ray and I'll do the honors?
Is
or-
Ray on? He's not on.
No,
He's
he's not.
yet.
Okay,
So if you said,
I'll do my honors.
Sorry, okay, river restoration?
yeah,
Okay, I have a gentleman I'm gonna send up, he was kind of lost, okay. thank you.
Sure. So must be France, must be Germany, therefore must be Belgium.
You gotta put it in between.
It's a big dot.
Yeah, because the dot covers 4 countries, so.
The Benelux area, so my wife is Belgian, we were married in Brussels, so that definitely gets a dot. And wonderful little village of a city that used to be on the coast, back when numbers started with like the year 400, and then on the doors were that tall. And I was born in Greenville, so that gets a special spot in my life. And it's definitely one of those places that I just consider like a cosmically important place, like in the middle of a lot of things, like, you know, the middle of the Gulf of Maine, the middle of the state of Maine, the middle of the, you know, kind of like north, south, east, west axis, but also the headwaters of the Kennebec River. And just such a fascinating place to be a small person when everything is so big. Snowplows and all of that. And I gotta share Tyler's, but I'll just do a little one, like a half moon for Seattle. Lived out there for a little over 10 years, and near and dear place. And kind of like, I think the West has kind of come up, has done this. The Western US has done this for a few of us. It ruins you on how good things can be from a natural perspective in a lot of ways. Very deft, well done. So those are my 3 geographical areas of importance. Courtney?
Oh, I guess I'm
You
the.
want dots? You got dots.
Metric river things. Oh, I have dots.
Okay, this is hard to decide.
Cool.
I think I'll start with Tanzania. I think it's right there. After college, I worked a little bit at the EPA, and then I realized, you know, I just really need to go international. And I knew I wanted to work on environmental projects, but I wanted to figure out this whole international development field and see if I wanted to do that work. So I went to Tanzania and worked with Jane Goodall Institute. I was teaching kids about sustainability and stewardship mainly in the city and outskirts. And was living in a city with a family and then commuting to the office, and Jane showed up one day. And I got to hang out with Jane for like 3 weeks, so life-changing, totally amazing. And yeah, it really kickstarted my career in international development and sustainability. And then I think the second dot I'll put is Washington, DC, where I spent about 7 years, I think. Really kind of in the thick of my career. It's just an amazing time in my life working for the World Bank and the State Department, and just learning about how the world works from the DC perspective, and had a great time. And then I will put the last one. I'll do Guatemala. I spent about a year in Guatemala, 2017, 18, working on my health, and I taught yoga. Just took that kind of year off to just focus on myself. And I'd been to Guatemala previously and had fallen out in love with it, the people, and I was living on this volcanic lake area called Lake Atitlan. And I was trying to learn Spanish. Just really enjoying my time there, and can't wait to go back one day.
Cool. I don't have all that international experience. Figure out what these places are. Okay, the first one's, where is it? Chicago, sort of, on Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
That was my first job out of grad school. I was a philosophy graduate. And I moved to Chicago with my husband, and he was in graduate school, so one of us had to work. And I looked at the first ad I saw was for the Department of Public Aid, no experience, but they saw that I had an advanced degree and said, we'll take you. And so I spent 5 years working with people unlike any that I had grown up with in Washington, DC. And I was just telling Courtney, it was my longest and strongest learning experience in understanding, even if people use the same words, that they can mean something very different, and finding a way to find out what those meanings are. It was probably one of the two most important educational experiences I had. So that's number one. Number two, no, it was fun. I don't know how much of a learning experience it was, but it was in England.
Where the pink dot is.
Okay.
By the pink dot, because that's Scotland, so England.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the Lake District. My husband and I were based at Oxford for a month on each of 4 years. And I had introduced experiential education into the Tuck School at Dartmouth. And these consultants from someplace in England showed up to do experiential education with a group of transportation mini executives. And we got to talking one day over tea, and they said, well, why don't you come up and observe? So I got an entire week in the Lake District with no responsibilities, and watching this group of lower level executives try to figure out how to work together. It was fascinating. And then they let me do one session on feedback, which was an experience. That's all I'll say about it. There was one woman in the group and 14 guys. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Okay, number three, here is Bali. Indonesia is
Right there.
right in there. This was something in between those two. It was a vacation, so it wasn't work and it wasn't semi-work. And what was important about it to me, the thing I remember more than anything else, was every day at noon, watching a group of staff completely dressed in white, carrying small fiber baskets, platforms, with offerings of fruit. It was mostly fruit, down to the water. And there obviously was some sort of a spiritual prayer session, and then setting these on the water and waiting for them to sail off. Every day I watched them do that for 2 weeks. Totally silent, as far as I could tell. Only one person that came down there was talking. And it was, I've since learned there are Native American ceremonies sometimes like that, but I've never seen anything like it. Growing up in Washington, we didn't see things like that. So that's 3.
Thank you.
Okay. My 3 are Denver, Colorado, Wyoming, and I guess,
New Mexico.
what's that?
Good.
I'm gonna do Japan.
Ooh.
So Colorado was born in Denver. Wyoming is a place that I've been going out and backpacking in the summers. And so that's become, I mean, I went there as a kid, but I've been revisiting it. And Japan, I've been to twice with groups of kids from the middle school. And just in terms of like environmental awareness and how the Japanese are, it was hugely influential to me. So, put it on my.
Awesome. I'll try the next. Do you want to?
You want dogs?
Oh.
You did the penny. You did the penny.
What, Penny?
The penny, you have
Oh,
precedent.
right.
You have precedent participating.
Do you know it?
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'll do it. Can I do it?
Yeah, go ahead. There are
Oh,
dogs.
okay, so my first dog is gonna be Sarajevo. Because I was there in 1993. It was not a good year to be there, but it changed my life. For good and bad reasons, but mostly for good reasons, because it gave me a sense of purpose that I really wanted to be in service. With humanitarian service, international development, town of Camden service. I think that's what I do. My second dog is a rock in about here. It's called Saint Helena Island. It's literally a rock in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. That's where Napoleon died. And there's a boat that goes there maybe like 4 or 5 times a year with the post office. And it's a research institute that documents, what's happening in the Atlantic and all kinds of things. And I just can't wait to be on that boat and go there. It's a brutal passage because I did it from the Cape and it's awful, but I really want to do it. And my last dot is right here. Because every year in June, I put my 40th boat and I go sleep on my boat in Mrcac Bay. And there is no better place in the world. So this is a really amazing place.
True.
And it's it's the best night of sleep of my year. The first night on my boat.
All right, let's go over next.
Yeah,
Oh, we going?
you go.
All right, I'll go quickly. I will put one on Washington DC, where Courtney put one. I was born right outside of DC. My dad was in the State Department, so that's why we were there. And then after Vietnam, he ran away and left the government and moved up to Maine. So that's that quick story.
Or you could never find him. Is that
Right, exactly. Where else? So I'll put one here on Curacao, which is Netherlands Antilles, right near Aruba. And that is where my sister was born and my family lived for sometime, and then I will put the green one in Italy because it's my favorite place in the world to go to. And I've been there twice, and I can't wait to go back. No.
All right, so let's see. I'll start at another main one. I'm gonna put Van Buren. My mom was born in Aroostook County, and we would go up there, you know, as a kid, a handful of times a year, and you could sled off the roof into the snowbanks, and I had a kind of experience that nowhere else in Maine has ever given me. I'll put this one in Junagadh, Gujarat, India, which is where my little sister is from. So that has certainly been a life-changing a wonderful part of my life. And I'll put my third one in Iceland here. It's the first time I've traveled internationally alone. I was incredibly intimidated by it, but I went to a soils conference and saw the degradation of soil in Iceland from overgrazing. And it was really, really eye-opening, totally different landscape, and neat to see it from a view with local soil scientists.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I took the walk.
No, we need to take a picture of this map and share it, especially with the people who work with us. Because I think, all this traveling and all those experiences that we get abroad, we bring them here. And it gives us an open-mindedness and at the same time, a deep affection for Maine. So this is very cool. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, and before we move on from icebreakers, in case you can't tell, I'm also having a second baby. Congratulations.
Are we funding the maternity ward?
Yeah.
This is what, because
We started working here. We have,
that's awesome. We don't have a little
I know, also had her baby.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, everyone's doing well.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Any more birth announcements? Only one joy, just joy. All right, so the first business order is approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes, you guys saw them? Any red flags, comments, anything?
I had no comments.
No comments, you want to vote on approving the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
All in favor? Ray, I saw you raise your hand. Is Ray on?
No,
Okay.
Ray's not able to get on. He's trying to.
Okay. Next, we're gonna have updates from Audra.
Yes, so
Shadow.
unfortunately, I was gonna send Ray an email saying, try again. Unfortunately, I don't really have many things that are new or different or changed since we last met. So no news on the grant about finalizing the agreement. And I think somebody's interested in an update about the Tiger One Bridge project, and I also don't have any updates about that. But I will reach out to the project manager for that project and ask them if there's anything new to report.
Cool.
And I think we did have a note in when we met in our subcommittee that, just to put a bug in your ear, if there is an event taking place due to construction or something where they draw down one of the dams,
Yep.
that if we can get a heads up, because I think at least our committee, we may try to do an impromptu or quick speaker series kind of meeting where we could walk the bottom of some of those.
So one thing I can give everyone sort of a heads up about, this will be the year, so I think more like FY 24, so July onward, where we do the required inspections of all the dams. So it's mostly for the high hazard dams, but we also include Montgomery Dam as well, so we're looking at all the structural elements of all of them. So when that happens, it might be worthwhile just coordinating with we use Klein Schmidt's the engineer that does that kind of inspection. Coordinating with them, and it might be, of interest to either a small group or all of the committee members to go and see how that all works. I know it's sort of outside of all this, but, just good information and. Could
We
be
do
helpful.
drawdowns as well, just, I think the more we can see things and experience them, the better. Cool.
And a drawdown, you know, I think that that would be good for everyone
Oh, yeah.
to see that and be on the inside of it. So maybe that's something that you don't all have to wait for, and I could speak with our public works director.
And
about
organize it.
organizing it.
Mm,
Field trip.
yeah, excellent.
You stole Tyler's thunder. That was a good idea.
No, it's
Just see the way.
all right, anything else, Albro?
That's all I have.
Cool. So I heard the subcommittees were hard at work in between our two meetings. I'm super psyched about it. So we decided to, really focus on the work of the subcommittees this afternoon and the reporting out. And one of the things I think we really want to achieve is try to, so I understand that there's discussion between the committees in prioritizing and organizing what event takes place before the other one. So let's try to have a big picture view and start putting some pins on the calendar, and start to organize that, if there's a learning event that needs to happen before site visit or things like that. And I think everybody has cabin fever and we all want to be out there and be on site and learn on site. So with that being said, so the subcommittee, the event subcommittee, it's Ray and Rick.
Ray, Rick, Deb, and I'm actually gonna be the one reporting out,
Reporting out,
filling
okay.
in for Ray.
Okay,
So, you want me-
and Rick will keep an eye on you, so if you want to add something that Forrest is forgetting, raise your hand and we'll make sure you're in.
Thank you.
all right, so yeah, we had a very good meeting last week. I'm not gonna go through everything we talked about, but I will summarize. We did talk about past events and sort of how those went, including the Harbor Park event. So that was part of our discussion. That was interesting, and I did talk to Sophie just for a few minutes before the meeting today because she was there as well to get her perspective. That was that before you were a select board member? Is that what you said? Oh, all right.
I've always
It was
been a select
October
board
of
member.
2021, so maybe that's right when,
Oh, it was just elected.
yeah, just elected. And then we really started to dig into the outreach spreadsheet, and I had put some just tentative dates on the sheet to sort of debate, and which we did. Really, the movie nights Sophie's working on, we tabled that for the time being and until she can close that loop. So we really talked about the two types of events that we're helping to organize, and we'll need everybody's help because these will be big events. And one are we call these informational socials, and we had scheduled 4 of these, and the NIFWIF grant is helping to pay some of FB Environmental's time to help with these and the other events. We talked about possibly expanding those. Ray came up with he did a really nice job and did his homework, and he had 4 socials that he had planned out for different areas along the river, from the Montgomery Dam and the Harbor Park all the way up to the lake. And our committee really liked his ideas. They were all outdoor public locations, so as opposed to indoors. So we talked about that. But then we had some further discussion about, well, maybe they don't just need to be Riverside. Maybe we need to hit a couple other neighborhoods in Camden as well. So that's where we went from 4 to potentially maybe 6 of these informational socials. And Deb made a really good point in our meeting that I wanted to just make sure I emphasize, is that a lot of the purpose of these informational socials are to hear from the citizens, and for us, not just to give a presentation, but to hear what they want to know and what they want to learn. So we just wanted to kind of circle back to that and make sure that people understand that that's a big part of the purpose, is to get their input in a less formal setting, which hopefully will be less intimidating and people won't be afraid to speak up. And then the other kind of big events that we're helping to oversee are these community forums. So these are larger, also public events that we'll be in a space, maybe here in the Opera House, but maybe in the middle school. Where there's lots of parking, where we do, most likely, and we have plenty of time to alter this, a World Cafe type event, which sounds a little bit like the Harbor Park event was, where you go from table to table and have, one-on-one discussions, and there's lots of information and maps and visuals. We'll make it really visual as well. And I'll just kind of wrap up by saying, so these informational socials, we're looking at having one per quarter, starting next quarter. So the next quarter is April, May, June. So when Sophie talks about cabin fever, this is our first event that we can all be present at and try to do a nice job with. Maybe that's in May, which is only 2 months away. So we'll need to really start working on that, maybe June.
But you're gonna have informal social in February or November, one per quarter?
Yeah, so they're not all gonna be outdoors. We did talk about the importance of having more in the summer and the shoulder seasons when there are more people here.
Right.
But we also stressed the importance of, maybe doing one of the neighborhood kind of local socials indoors somewhere in the winter. So that's, it's up for a debate. So that will keep our subcommittee and Maggie and I and hopefully everybody very busy to start having some of these socials, and we can talk more about the details and we can, present our ideas.
Are we gonna design kind of a little bit of a format for each of those? So I'm thinking, we need to give a snapshot of the project, the purpose. Why is it important to you in your community that we're doing this, and create the setting for having those meaningful conversations with people in this neighborhood. So
Absolutely.
So you guys have started drafting that too.
We have not started drafting that yet, but that's our next, that's our next meeting.
Yeah, I'm part of this,
Really,
right?
what's that?
I'm
Yeah,
part
you're
of
part of this committee. So we were waiting for you to get into that. So, yes, Kelly.
So have you in other communities done both of those things, community forums and informational social?
Yes.
And so is there a really qualitative difference? I mean, I can understand there is some qualitative difference between the socials and the community forum. I understand one's more structured.
Yep.
Did you find that they really elicited different kinds of responses or?
Yeah, I guess I can't necessarily quantify that, I'm saying we had evaluation forms or anything, but yeah, I would say the more localized neighborhood discussions, and some of these I've done, and you can speak to some of the ones you've done, have actually been in people's homes.
Mm-hmm.
And that, obviously you're asking a lot for people to invite other people into their homes, but they truly were neighborhood socials. And it was very informal. It was sitting around a dinner table or out on a porch. And yeah, it was really informal, less formal than even this discussion we're having now. And so there was a lot, I guess you have a lot more chance of getting their feedback in the informational social. Community forum, you still get feedback, but there might be 250 people attending. So, there are a little more bits and pieces kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess I would add, or I'd pose a question to the group, like, when we originally put the outreach plan out there, our thought was that the neighborhood or informational socials might be targeted more to that area of the river. Like, let's say it's by the east-west dams and we talk about the lake. And so that's like the topic. We could go that route, and that way we get information on specific topics, or we could go the route of, we're always gonna need the broad context of the project for sure, but we could stay broad and just represent. I don't know if you guys talked about that, like the scope.
I'm asking because it sounds like a huge amount of time. And I'm just thinking that, so to your point, if there were, and I don't want to get in the weeds with this, if that's not what we're supposed to do, but I'm just saying it does sound like with those two together, I'm sort of gobsmacked by the amount of time you're talking, because each one of those things is like lots of preparation on either side. And then filtering out what we learned from the people at the informational, or the community things and making sure we respond to all that stuff. It's gigantic. So just wondering where if you've done it before and it's all gone well.
I'm gonna kind of go along her route, and I know that we got sidetracked with this, talking about your subcommittee and our subcommittee meeting, but, I think it's good to piggyback on any of the public events that occur in our town. We have quite a few of them. And I think that's an opportunity perhaps to spend less effort, but still get pretty good outreach where you don't need to put up posters, you don't need to rent spaces. Like it may just be a booth at the Arts and Crafts Festival or even weekly at the farmer's market. There could be opportunities where with less effort, other than just someone showing up and being there to respond, there might be some other outreach opportunities that could be low hanging fruit.
There's huge value in going to people where they're at.
But Tyler and Elfie, are you talking about doing something more like that, just joining something that's already planned, as opposed to the information forums?
I think there's both. I think they both have.
But I think you get different.
They both have their value. I think it's just easy. It's pretty low hanging fruit if you can go somewhere where people already are.
No, and that, I think I certainly could do that instead of having an entirely separate
Right.
plan, the forum.
Right.
thing. And I was gonna ask both Sophie and Audra, and also you, Maggie and Forrest, when you do those community forums, where you're mostly giving out information, how do you capture anything so that you can decide whether it was worth it?
Yeah, good question.
Talk about Bar Harbor example.
Yeah, I guess like some of the most helpful things that we've done is creating like big maps on the phone board or other visuals. I can explain a few different examples I've seen. And then we have people that are there interact with them, like dots, markers, lines, and then we digitize that information and we're able to digest it as a group visually and also, make it graphical so that we can present it back to the community and say that this is what we heard. We heard that this area doesn't have a bike path, or there's like loss of connectivity with the river walk here, or this is where people like to go fish, for example. You can also do things like, I didn't do this, but I went to a meeting once that had big photos of like different design of like buildings and sidewalks, and everyone who entered the forum or had some sticky dots and they got to prioritize, what do I like? And it would be a picture of a house, like what kind of houses do I like to look at? A purely like kind of aesthetic design, like what do I want my community to look at? So I guess those interactive ways are the ways I've seen the most success. I mean, you can obviously have like eval forms and question forms and such as well.
I'm just thinking, we have the same kind of issue with this as we do with the survey, in the cart before the horse type of thing, where at what point, I guess we have to figure out what the goal is, right? We want to share information and gather information. But I think we want to first share that information, right? So people can be on somewhat of the same page, have the information, then to make the more educated assessments and opinions and share those with us. But so, yeah, I'm a little worried about, for each one, what is our goal for each? Do we want to get input from the public up front or later, or, yeah, I think both. And I think it can be a little tricky, we have to be, strategic about what we want to do.
I think we can organize, once the calendar, or once we start planning a few events, I think public announcements and mobilizing the public and maybe having a meeting, either at the middle school or the snowball, or I don't know, somewhere that's easy to park when the weather is decently nice, and just, at least, invite everyone and say, hey, these are the things that are going to be happening. The neighborhood social, the informational social, the reform. If we put something, when we start thinking about putting something on the warrant, there has to be public meetings as well. So those are not part of the, well, they're part of the outreach, but they're legal requirements. And I think part of me wants to say, it's okay not to figure out the whole process right now,
Yeah, that's right.
and just let's start. Let's put a few things on the calendar, let's start planning a few events. And I think all of you and all of us, all of us were like pretty good at having conversations with people and gathering some insights. I mean, let not be the perfect enemy of good, right? So this is our 7th meeting, so I think we really need to gear into action and start really putting some stuff on the calendar.
But
Yeah.
wouldn't it be possible to
refining
do one of those neighborhood gatherings? It's coming up, April to June.
Yeah.
And do one and see what we glean from that.
I was gonna suggest the same thing, and maybe it's a topical one, maybe it's fish passage, or fish ladders, and, I like Ray's idea of going to the river and being outside. I think that holds value, plus we don't have to worry so much about how many people, whether it's gonna be 10 or 100 showing up, because you're outdoors and you're not space limited. So maybe we pick a topic to as a group. The group chooses a topic, and let's focus on that for this first social. So that's just a suggestion.
But are you making this social that is becoming a presentation? I thought it was more gathering.
Well, it's both.
Yeah.
It could be both. So maybe the fish passage one was a bad example. That's just the one that popped into my mind,
But I think it's both. You're there for a reason. There's a goal to share information, like this is how the dam works or whatever. And then that's also an opportunity to ask questions.
Right.
And just also see what questions people have. I think that's really helpful more than anything. Just what are their questions?
I think that's critical.
yeah.
I mean, we already, with the website, the newsletter, press releases, we're sending out a lot of information. If anyone, what we're not getting back is people's reaction to it.
Yeah.
So much. I mean, we did the one tabling event. I had to smile when I looked at the outreach calendar. The survey was to be done at the outset of the project. And I know we've talked about it and set it aside several times, but I really think that learning what people are thinking about, worrying about, wondering about, could help shape some of the later events. Help us focus on things that would be of real interest. And it's also a way of showing people that we're listening.
Yeah, for sure.
I do think people need some structure, like people like to have something to respond to.
Oh, yeah, no, I think in planning them, I don't see why we couldn't have, certainly could have an opening on some topic, but to have, what we used to call them, they're prompt questions. They're just, the same, you can start with the same list, but if you're in a different group and it's moving in a different place, you change it slightly, but open-ended questions that invite people to share whatever they want. And it doesn't have to be rigidly structured. People in general like to talk, and particularly about things they care about.
Yeah, what Forrest mentioned, Bar Harbor, we did a forum that I thought went really well last fall, and so we had that was for a comprehensive plan, so we had archaeological resources and environment, all these big topics, and everyone had a box with forms that you could go sit and look at the maps and fill out, and some of them were just wide open questions, or we had some draw your favorite place in Camden or something, we got kids to come. One of them was one of the forums was at a school, and all of the elementary school kids came and drew their places. It was really neat. But some of them would be more structured, there was one Mad Libs version, film Mad Libs. Giving people the options it worked really well. I thought it was fun.
That's fun. I wanted, And maybe he's not there.
Oh, Rick, yeah.
Rick, I know you're part of this committee. I didn't,
Are you there?
oh, you are
Oh,
there.
I'm here. If I was gonna scratch my face, I didn't want it to be memorialized.
Was there anything you wanted to add about the neighborhood or informational socials? Or,
Just to recap how that conversation went, the direction it did about the informal socials or the informational socials. I just pushed back a little bit on this idea that the only stakeholders of the river are those who live or own property or operate a business that are adjacent to it. And my point was that, if we're looking at the town as a whole, we all are in effect stakeholders in the sanctity of the river. And just leading that into basically the premise that we shouldn't only be focusing on the opinions, the questions, the attitudes, the beliefs of the folks who live or operate a business adjacent to the river, that rather the entire town, I should say that the opinions expressed by people who live in other parts of the town might be valuable to what we're efforting to.
yeah, excellent. Well, I guess just to close out this.
Can I
group-
just suggest
Oh,
one more
sure.
thing?
Definitely.
I was talking to a friend last night, she was suggesting that we could go see the Elvers, like March 22nd, she said, usually when they're out. You can go at night with your flashlight, I'm sure you've done that. Maybe you can help us with that, but she said it would be really cool. This is Allison McCullough, who has been doing that a lot. And she also said that a great spot to go watch the alewives trying to go up the falls is at the Duck Trap River. So we could just do a field trip with just our group if we wanted to do something really informal and just go check that out and see what that looks like. Because it's a possibility in our own river.
But even if we don't do organized events around those dates, we should put them on the website and tell people, hey, those things are happening in town right now.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn more about the Elvers, go to the public landing, March 22nd, with flashlights and your kids, and just take a look at it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Maybe we should add to the newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, the
exactly.
alewives
I
in
didn't
Warren.
think of that.
Yeah.
I actually have a picture of the alewives at Duck Trap.
And also, there's a big run in Warren,
And where?
in Warren,
More.
every year. yeah.
The Live Run in the St. George.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just watch it from the
That
footbridge
would
at
be
Mason Park.
Oh, yeah, like that.
And I mean,
There's so
the
many
Elvers,
cool-
you can see them in the daytime with the naked eye, the later in the run it goes. Like after the quota
really?
is met, so many millions come in, all the space in between the rocks and the intertidal zones is milky white.
Wow.
Getting
Let's
around
make sure-
7 a.m. is no problem.
They're circle, they crawl up, right?
So only fish passing.
Yeah, they can go over.
So
there.
and that's like
They're
late March.
They are.
I mean, that was like late in the
Late
spring, so
in the
it's
spring.
starting now.
Yeah,
You know,
we're-
at night you can go
we're
see
first-
them now.
Elver ground that's open.
Yeah, we were in the
Yeah.
first zones.
Where's the best place to
And
go
we
to see
won the
them?
lotto this year, you know, dip them all out of there.
Like, where's the best place in the harbor or?
Camp Town Landing, right at the
Public Town Landing.
base of the falls that kind of come back towards the town landing from the Smiling Cow.
Oh, okay, yeah, the rocks right there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep, where that vegetation that is being thought of as, I don't know, managed somehow provides critical habitat.
Okay.
And I just have one more thing to add.
Yes.
Madam Chair, just with the timing, so we mentioned roughly every quarter for an informational or neighborhood social or event, and that can morph into many different things. The community forums, we talked about, 2, and ideally, we have one this September or October, and then also, again, next September, October, with the anticipation of a potential vote. So that was some of the timing along the community forums, so.
Well, so just, I'm thinking to close this up, so like that's, if there is gonna be a informational social in Q2, the events committee is gonna need to move forward with like really starting to plan that. So I guess maybe we want like a formal or an informal vote, or does anyone so that the committee can move forward with this planning, I guess.
I think, let's use the red flag process. Is there does anybody have a red flag towards organizing a neighborhood social or informal social in Q2? Going once, going twice, going thrice? All right.
And does anyone have a specific like place or topic that they want the subcommittee to consider?
But I think the Elvers, look, there are a couple of dates. So as we were saying, to piggyback on things that already exist, maybe we can, and even if it's small, let's start. It'll snowball.
April is it
April.
Q2?
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, event subcommittee. I will show up next time. Education, Tyler.
I'm speaking for education. We met last week, primarily on three things. The informational video that we're looking at putting out, speaker series, and tracking of news articles and questions. For the informational video, we had some discussion about one video versus two videos. I think there was concern that as we start to spread out so multiple videos, that our budget goes down and ends up with a shorter video that may not be able to get the full message across. So I think the consensus of the group was, let's put together a longer video that can help answer more questions. There's a little bit of question on timing of it. We definitely feel it's, from an aesthetic standpoint, it's nice to view the river in a season where there's leaves out there, as opposed to filming this thing in February or something. But so there's some timing associated with that. We also probably didn't want to get going until some of the initial subcommittee, the forums take place. Because we felt that part of the objective of the video is to answer some of those questions that are out there that the public have. And so the idea is to capture those questions through some of the public forums and be able to respond to those or make sure those are addressed within the video itself. So we have a timeline. We're looking at the September 2023 community forum as kind of the kickoff of being able to start to initiate that. Speaker series, we're always looking for more speakers. We had some more lists in there. Next up, we do have a speaker, Mike Burke from Interfluke is scheduled for March 21st. I know that there's been some coaching with him to try to make sure that he knows what the objective is that we're looking for on that. And we had some discussion about whether or not the whole topic of flooding should be addressed in that. And I don't remember if that happened in our subcommittee meeting or in our meeting last time, but I think there was some discussion that the flooding thing might be a whole topic by itself. It might be too big of a thing to address.
I think I agree with you. I think that's where we landed when we organized this, when we had our agenda meeting. Nevertheless, we said Mike should be prepared to answer questions.
Sure.
And not extensively, but to say that, and make sure that they know that he knows there's a white paper coming on flooding and.
It's prepared, correct?
Yeah, Mike and I just talked on Monday,
Yeah.
and I relayed all of that to him, so he'll be ready for any questions on flooding, but we'll also, I told him that we would identify a speaker later on in the series to do flooding, so he could also tell the group that that was coming down the pipe.
Yeah, especially if you get into any sort of question that may be into the weeds or into the details of that. Yeah.
What's the white paper on the flooding? FBE's doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's
Great.
the white paper.
A white paper on flooding.
Flooding.
Yeah,
Because these are some
so many
resources.
questions.
It's coming very soon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it'll put probably 5 or 6 pages and it looks at, what's known, what's not known, sort of getting into the root of the potential issues and what still needs to be looked at.
Is that gonna go in one of the publications or is that just for us or?
The idea is it's for you, the committee, and then.
And can do whatever we want.
Can you guys make sure when you're working that there's a lot of, that flooding term is thrown around a lot, and I think it refers to a lot of different events that are happening within the watershed. I mean, I think there's flooding associated with ocean swell, there's flooding associated with sea level rise, there's flooding associated with major rain events, there's flooding associated with catastrophic dam failure, and they're all flooding. So.
It's a good point. Probably the Inuit language has more terms for flooding than English. So it's unusual. English is so good at that.
I think that's why it's become a challenging thing for the community to grasp, because it's
Sure.
very nuanced.
I think it's nuanced, and I think it's becomes one of those terms that I think you can. I think you can have two people that are both arguing about flooding and they're both right.
Yeah.
But they're
Yeah.
coming,
Yeah.
but they're totally opposite
Totally.
points of view, so. And so Kent Gross is gonna be the month after my work, and I think in discussing Ken's stuff, I think originally we're gonna have him not just focus on the dams, but the history of the river itself. There's a lot of really interesting stuff that's happened along this river, especially you know, not only in modern times, but in industrialization of the river. Right, so he's, you know, a great database on that stuff, and I look forward to that one. There's some neat, neat stuff that we see only remnants of.
Yeah, so is everybody okay with that? Because when everyone's okay, Susan's gonna formally reach out as a board.
No red flag on having Ken Gross as our next.
Yeah.
It'll be April, right?
Yeah, Susan was particularly concerned, but I think she figures she has a way of dealing with it to make sure that he knows where the guardrails are.
Well, that's also Maggie's role in coaching, she's worked with Mrcac and she, because we've noticed that some of our speakers were not, needed a bit more help, but yeah, so Maggie and Forrest can also help. So it removes the pressure from Susan to do that.
And I think the issue that Susan had with, there was just concern associated with, just to get on the record, with Ken Gross's, so he's a employee of the library. He's also a member of the Save the Dam Falls Committee. And so it's just trying to figure out, make sure that he has appropriate hat on for the discussion and.
But I think for transparency's sake, he should say he's a member of the Save the Dam.
Sure, and I think that's fine, so.
But he's
I would
presenting
recommend
as a historian, that's
Sure.
his expertise that we're seeking.
Are we gonna have a separate presentation from Save the Dam Falls then, or is this?
We have that,
He's
on our
representing.
list, so,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
we don't have the name
Discussed.
associated with it yet, but, that is one that was highlighted, I think. We have some other ones that we're brainstorming for future, after the April date, things like river tours, engagement with the neighboring communities, particularly Hope, and Lincolnville. Try to figure out how to engage those groups. Mrcac Lake Association representative, representative from Bagaduce River, discussing some of the work that's happened there. And then, Save the Dams and Allison McKellar was also another. So I mean, these are pretty far out, so I think, as we start to get closer, we can figure out which one of these we can firm up and figure out who best to talk on.
I have a couple leads for the indigenous history,
Okay,
so I'm gonna work on that, and should I send it to your?
yes, I mean, I think send it, yeah, I think that's,
You can put it on, I've added a speaker actually today, Tyler.
okay, thank you.
I haven't officially talked to, I just have leads at this point, so.
But you can still put them on there's a
Okay.
list of potential next speakers, so.
Okay, I'll put it.
Yeah, so we
Working on it.
talked about that, oral history being the May speaker, and either Susan or Steph, they both had contacts, who's gonna be the outreach, so.
For what?
But Susan has, she like really has a contact at River Land Trust that I think she has worked with, and I was just, I'm sorry she's here, I was kind of hoping to drill down on that a little bit,
Before-
but also if you have a contact, great.
This is the indigenous.
Yeah, just for the native
background?
perspective,
Oh, okay. Oh,
what it
okay,
be, if we're going to have the speaker, that sort of.
great. Yeah, let's
Let's
see, yeah,
do converse.
And so I think we're always looking for more thoughts on speakers
yeah,
as well.
I mean, we could always get two as well. I mean, maybe that's 10 minutes each, isn't a lot, but if we needed. We could split it.
On the video, at one point, we talked about a photo contest, and I'm just thinking about the video, so we would have, we're gonna have a professional video, right, that's part of the grant, right? I'm looking at your grant.
I mean, I guess so.
I guess so.
It's in there.
Yeah,
It's in there. So, and we have several potential, so we need to have a process to hire someone, whatever. But I was thinking, and maybe it's completely crazy, but if we had a photo and video contest for any, for people to submit their photo and video, we could do a very groovy little patchwork video. This is how you see the river. Ooh. And instead of having an external eye documenting the river, which is necessary, but this, and have people send you picture like, I was kayaking at 5 a.m. and I saw this bald eagle. Bam! You know, that's a moment for me in the river. Things like that that really are impactful. That I think it would be super groovy, and it would give people along the watershed this ownership that Rick was like, we are all both owners and stewards of this watershed. Maybe something you can think about.
I like that.
Yeah.
It gets people involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
And kids and,
Yeah,
you know, drawing, whatever.
yeah, drawings would be cool.
Drawings can be cool, photos, video,
Yeah.
drone shots, you know.
I like it. Should we house that under the education committee to think about then?
And I'm happy to work on that with you, Tyler.
Yeah,
If I suggest it, I do it, right?
and we do have a international documentary film festival that does take place in our town too, so
I know. I know.
I don't know if there's any synergy.
We should try to do that, yeah.
So lastly was news articles, tracking and FAQs. I think this one, we still have work to do on, we know there's outstanding questions, trying to figure out that process of how we're gonna answer it in a timely manner, how we're going to vet those answers and then get it out there. The nice thing is, I think we're gonna find that there's a lot of commonality to the questions. But our group right now is tasked with, we are all going out there and scrubbing news articles that have been out there, both the news articles themselves and also comments that have been added by the public to those news articles. And we have a whole list of those FB put together, and they have a trigger in their system. So it goes out and looks for new news articles that would be appropriate, that trigger certain keywords. So we can make sure that questions that are being posted in those forums get added to our question list. And then, so that's what our members are going out and looking through all those and scrubbing them and pulling those questions out of there.
So Forrest and Maggie, how often are you gonna add to that tracking list?
We have a weekly reminder set up so that anything we get in that week on Fridays, we put.
Are you just adding it to the initial list, or can you send a separate list each time?
We're just gonna add it to the working list in Google Drive, so that'll keep getting updated.
You'll just need to figure out a method for tracking.
For figuring out where you start.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the batches easily of new ones.
See, so like, which one? Yeah, like a column for everyone's name or
Yeah.
something.
Or just,
Yeah,
yeah, or just
okay.
draw a line.
Yeah. And that's the environment.
Cool. And the Q&A, I think, you know, we can also add Q&A by batches. We don't need to have them all solved. Just five a week or whatever, you know, we don't, and see the reaction. I think even small bites also work.
And are we gonna talk about what we found? I mean, I know Susan, I think she posted something, and I've got something, but is the committee, subcommittee, whatever we are, gonna actually spend some time looking at those collections?
Yeah, we should put another subcommittee date in the calendar.
Yeah. It's gonna be an ongoing thing throughout this whole process. And hopefully, I mean, I think the hope is that the further you go down the line, there's fewer and fewer questions.
Yeah, the funnel.
New questions.
That are new questions that haven't been answered already.
Maybe we'll get some based on the public events we've done.
Thank you, Tyler,
Yep.
and thank you to the education subcommittee.
Can I just add to that, the neighborhood questions that Audra shared with us last time? The towns looked at them and now, and Mike works looking at them from the perspective of the work that they've done on the feasibility study. So I just wanted you all to know that like, those are going through, review for answers. Cool, great.
Written communication subcommittee, who's presenting that?
I can.
Come.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, so we're newsletter, press release, social media, website, survey. That's our forte, but we work pretty closely with FB on all this. So for the newsletter, we just submitted our final draft yesterday, so we're finalizing that, and that's gonna go out soon. That's like the third newsletter.
And this one was all about fish because of Nate Gray's presentation. So that's what we're doing now. We're really focusing mostly on fish, on the theme of the presentation. But we also, there's also other ideas that we're gonna be bringing in as we come to each speaker and each theme. We'll probably add in other people's ideas that we've seen. Like Susan had some ideas that are great. And what else?
The committee,
Yeah.
gets- I think we decided in our last meeting, the committee gets 48 hours for a red flag, right?
Yeah.
For the.
Oh, yeah.
newsletter.
Yeah. And you guys send that once it's.
I guess we should decide.
Yeah.
I figured it was coming from you, but if you want us to send it.
That's, I guess, something we should figure out. Yeah.
You guys should send it. When you're happy with your draft, you should send it to the rest of the committee in 48 hours.
Okay.
Starts now.
Yeah, because it's been a nice collaboration getting edits from FB, and then maybe once we get those edits, we can.
Yeah. So this one.
So this is ready to go. It's all for that tonight.
Awesome.
I think the challenge has been summarizing the presentations. It takes a lot of time, and it's tough to know what to include, what not to include. It's tough. So if anybody has suggestions on how to do that, that'd be great. Or, just let us know if we're not summarizing correctly.
Are you gonna have a link to the,
Yeah.
because I don't know how much detail you have to summarize.
We try our best to get the gist, and pictures, and this one is great because there's a lot of visuals. But yeah, we have a link to the presentation and the PowerPoint as well. Yeah.
So if I can suggest an idea, summarizing stuff is really difficult. It takes a long time. But so I was trying to think of the 3 key takeaways that I learned from Nate. Right? So the variety of the species of fish that can potentially be in our river was, I was completely blown away by this, picture of all those fish. The fact that, well, I can't remember, but anyway, if you look at what are the 3 key takeaways you got, instead of summarizing it, and maybe ask 1 or 2 of your colleagues on the same subcommittee, guys, what are your 3 key takeaways? Think about what do people who could not see the presentation would love to learn, in a bite size. Oh, so there's sturgeon, in Maine. I didn't know there was sturgeon in Maine. Didn't know that. One of those fish. Sorry, Steph. Non, je suis désolée, mais qu'est-ce que tu veux? Moi, je suis pas d'ici.
Parce que juste grand poisson.
Très moche.
Filling up underneath your sailboat, just eating stuff off the
I've seen angel fishes. So, but the variety of fishes, the fact that one of them eats another one like Doritos, I was laughing for like 15 minutes about this, like, okay, fish.
at the Dorito factory.
The Dorito factory, things like that. So, because I think you're giving yourself too much work.
We're wondering about it. It's taken, I literally
It is
hours and hours, but somebody has to do something. So, yeah.
But your three people on the newsletter.
Well,
Courtney,
yeah.
so the first one, I would say was, the 3 of us chiming in. I feel like Courtney, you did the whole thing this time,
Okay, we're now taking turns on who will summarize.
Yeah, so you're making it completely.
But then, and Ellen
different.
isn't here.
Yeah.
But it's been a question of mine all along for these 3, how much we can, ask, how much we can depend on the public hitting that link if they have more that they want to find out. Is that our responsibility to make sure that they hit on that link if they have more questions? How thorough to be, so it's kind of a relief to me to hear you say that, because I feel like we need to give the public, maybe some responsibility or whatever, some credit for, if they need to know more, the link is right
The
there.
link is right there.
Look at it. Yeah. Sorry?
I think most people won't. I think most
Yeah.
people will read the summary and that's all they want to do. I can't foresee a lot of people wanting to watch it, but I know people do. I just think
So,
if we want to really reach people, I think we need to summarize it.
So do you want to reach people or do you want, so what I want to see, I'm gonna say, what I wanna hear is I wanna hear two people at Zoom saying, hey, I didn't see this presentation, but did you know we have sturgeon in Maine? Wow, you know, so key.
We could
top lines, big
simplify
facts,
it,
you know,
yeah.
some pieces-
Several species.
Several. So, but what I mean is,
Yeah.
do we
like maybe
want people,
less
I
is
think,
more.
well, less is more. We want attention grabber, you know, like facts that are like, whoa,
Okay,
really? I didn't know.
yeah.
You know, how many times have I cited a 72 page research article and I've only cited the data in the executive summary? Bam.
And I would say,
And it's fine.
the other thing that is, and Courtney did this super well, is certain concepts that need to be understood, like keystone species thing.
Right.
There's a sentence in it that just says, okay, what is that? And alewives are that, and that's an important thing.
Yeah.
What's the second one? What's the second concept?
You mean defining ecology?
Oh, the defining ecology, maybe it was that one.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
terms
it's,
and
it's
things.
hard to take somebody else's presentation and.
It is.
So don't do it.
But I think we did, I would love feedback on this newsletter. Just let me know, is it too much information, too much of one type of information? Is there not enough like illustrations or? So yeah,
I
I'm
think you
open
have
to
to-
criticism.
I think you have to think about the people who read the newsletter as everybody has different attention spans. They're the guys who are gonna go, oh, I need to look at this. thing
Right.
now." Okay, so
Read
they're
every
gonna
word.
dive into the link. And there are people who are gonna go, oh, this is really cool. I really love the color. Hey, sturgeons in the room? Wow.
Yeah,
So we have to cater to different audiences.
that's what I tried
You can
to do
see
that, yeah. we
No,
tried
but
that.
I'm thinking Maine branded caviar, that's, you know, that's my. I never said. Anyway, so, but, yes, sir. So, but, don't give yourself too much work. I mean, it's the suggestion.
Yeah,
I don't know if this would be helpful as well, but I'm sure there were, questions that pop up over and over again that were answered.
Yeah.
By the presentation, like I think the question about, is it even possible to get alewives up into the watershed?
Yeah.
And I think Nate Gray's answered that in Camden many times.
Yeah.
But anyway, like, stuff like that.
we didn't put that in.
We can just
Okay.
measure and knock down the
Knock down,
presentations
exactly.
to.
Oh, that's interesting, okay.
Yeah.
So you go beyond your own ideas of what is interesting. You can include the questions,
But also.
the things that they question.
Oh, yeah,
But
we
if
tried
the
to do a
three
little
of
bit, yeah.
you, if the three of you commit to having, to all write down the 3 key takeaways, then you can,
Yeah,
you'll have 3 different perspectives.
yeah.
It could, and you're representative, so, that could be
yeah,
also
really like
helpful.
that idea. One thing that really worked well for us was getting together in the same room and just having conversations, like, where do we put this, and should we, this sentence in? So that, and we did it over Zoom last night, just like, Elfie and I.
But you can also say, you can also have a box saying, I really love this presentation, Courtney, I really love this presentation because I learned this thing. Something that comes from you. So it's not just a newsletter from a group, but it's also people who react to this information. I was amazed by this fact. You can have an op-ed. Any one of you guys can have an op-ed in the newsletter saying, I was, super impressed with the sturgeons in the river.
Yeah.
Because that's relatable. People can understand that you're not impartial, you're also impacted by the information you receive. So that could also help people, that could draw people in.
Yeah, I like all these ideas.
Time
It's really
check.
helpful.
Oh,
I know that our newsletter hasn't gone out to everyone, but I just wanted to say that I thought it was really creative because the front page is all graphics. And I opened it and was like, oh, it's all graphics.
Pretty things.
It's nice. It's
Lots of
refreshing.
fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had fun. I really enjoy the process. It's just, can be a lot.
It's okay, it's different every time. I think it's
Yeah.
just great because this comes from the perspective of people who are learning this stuff with the community. And I think that that's nice and that shows and.
Well, and some things that I'm appreciating is that, so we have a format and we're just filling, right, the format, so that makes it streamlined. And keeping it to a certain, like the third page is pretty much information about, well, we have the factoids on that, don't we? The watershed factoids, the watershed moments on the third page, is it?
I took a photo of the.
Okay, well, anyway, we've got these different little, insets or whatever that we just need to fill in each time. So that makes it streamlined. And some things we can leave the same every week, trying to leave things the same so people can find them. But I think that's a super important feature. Like, oh, it's gonna tell me where the presentation is over here. and all that. So that's on front page.
So we're learning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
No, this is
give us
great.
feedback and yeah, make it better each time.
I know you do. I have to, Audra, can we print 10 and put them at the town office?
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
that's a good idea. Yeah.
So people come in, pay their taxes, they can pick one up. I just had an idea for, I think it's both education, events and communication. What are bonus points? When I lived in New York, I used to go to drag queen bingo. Should we have river bingo night? Oh boy.
In drag.
Not necessarily.
Fish costumes.
That's river, I like
River
that idea.
bingo, like, it's both informational and fun.
Yeah.
And
See, I
like
would do one
fun
of the
to see
social
events.
Great
events, I
idea.
think.
So
That's a
for
great
example,
idea.
But I think in your newsletter, if you wanna take and do like a crossword puzzle or like,
yes.
cause there's some pretty good things that you can actually online that you can just punch in the words and definitions and it'll,
Yes.
or even like,
Yes.
or even like pictures of fish on this side and the names on this side and you have to draw the lines.
Oh, yes.
Like the things you
I did not think of that. It's interactive.
Yes.
It's stuff. Thank you.
Having a hard time distinguishing elders and alewives.
You can make it.
Well, now I wish I had seen before the newsletter, but okay.
Well, that's one of-
Great. I love that.
Awesome, all right, time check.
So we have more stuff to talk
Go-
about
go
if
for it.
there's time.
Can I give you, we can give Courtney.
I can go really
5
fast.
minutes.
Hey, that sounds good.
It's, I mean, the other stuff isn't as, well, no, the survey might be interesting, but, yeah, the other stuff is press releases, FBE really has ownership on that, we help them, but, those are about the upcoming monthly speakers, and that's usually sent out like a week before. And then we've been trying to figure out also how to continue, getting the articles in the newspaper. Dan Dunkel wrote that fabulous one
Yeah.
last time. I don't know if he intends to do that again, but, we were talking to Mindy about that, so she said she'd look into that. And then we're wondering if there's any point to have bigger articles in other magazines like the Maine Monitor or, Down East, or, we're just brainstorming, but I don't know if that's something we wanna do.
So Dan
At
is,
some point,
yeah, Dan is always looking for content.
yeah,
So I think when we go to him, we need to have a proposal
right,
of, something with documents that he can know, people he can
Yeah.
interview, things like that. But he's, yeah,
and he just focused on the presentation last time, I thought it was excellent. It was such a good summary, so yeah, those are
so you have them do the summary.
yeah, that'd be great. The other piece is social media, we're trying to figure that part out, the town website.
Yeah.
I mean, the Facebook page for
Yeah.
the town is great, but we don't really have jurisdiction really on that, so we were discussing maybe starting our own page. We don't know if we'd get enough, membership, but it might be just an extra little thing that we can do to spread information and not too much work, really.
It's
Pretty
not,
easy.
starting a Facebook page is very simple.
Pretty easy stuff,
Yeah.
so that's, yeah. We'll probably just do that. And then for the website, I don't know if everyone's seen it, but it's awesome, you guys did such a good job. And we talked to Mindy about, she's gonna talk to, I'm not sure if it's you, Audra, or Janice, but about, removing our piece on your website. Do you agree that that's not necessary?
Yeah, we had a
Oh,
conversation
okay,
about it and,
Yeah.
linking instead to the
great, yeah,
external website.
much easier.
Yes.
What else on that?
Can I make a quick point
I think that's
about the
a good
website,
point.
please?
Yes, go ahead. Ray.
I raised my hand on the thing, but I,
You're distracted.
so this was just a personal observation that I know nothing about how Google, prioritizes the results and all that, but if you Google our organization name, the first result is the town website page, as opposed to the one that FB is designed. And I'm wondering, for anyone who knows how to do this, is there a way to invert that somehow so that the good website is the one that people can come up with first?
Yeah,
Casey is.
Yeah, I think Casey does it for ours.
Yeah, we could do some optimization. I did the same thing, Rick. I tried to Google it because I didn't have the link in front of me and it didn't even pop up at all on mine, so, yeah.
I don't know how to do it.
So,
Really good point.
we have someone that can do optimizations
very good
to
point.
get it up there. Plus, it's brand new, so it takes a little time to get out there.
Sure. It still comes up as I forget what the term is, but like Arc Global or whatever the server or the
ArcGIS.
Yeah,
that one. So that you can't even tell that that's the website that the link would take you to. So
Oh, interesting.
RGIS is in the
That's good to know.
URL, yeah.
don't mean to derail this. I'm sorry. It was just something that
No,
I.
that's
Nope.
really,
Super good point.
Excellent. I think we're gonna get stuck with the ArcGIS being in the URL.
So better the reason, even better the reason to have a better optimization.
Yep, we're on it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
All right,
And then the last thing is the survey.
but you're out of your 5 minutes.
Right, I know, but I just wanted to make sure. We need to,
But
we need to get to that at some point.
Right, I think we need to prioritize the survey because it's more than a 5-minute conversation. So
Right.
at one point,
Yeah, I'm curious, did you guys talk about it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Can
I
we
mean,
give
we're.
it 2 minutes?
sure.
5 seconds.
Yeah,
We thought it was gonna be talked about today, and I don't know where, maybe Mindy said that, we were gonna talk about the survey in this.
Okay.
But I guess, I don't know, maybe we're not. So we thought we would discuss it, with the group before really getting into the nitty gritty, but if we're not gonna discuss it in this,
So
then maybe
realistically-
we'll,
No, but I'm happy to, how much time can you devote to today?
what do you mean?
Oh, maybe you should put it on the next agenda?
So that's my question, is this, because I don't want to have just a 5-minute conversation, because I think it's a much longer conversation. But do you want to give us the kind of top things you guys discussed? Or wait until we put it on the agenda?
I'm not sure we discussed, did we discuss?
We didn't go into.
Yeah, I don't think we did, but the, I mean, designing it's gonna be super important. So I think it's gonna need to be a situation where maybe the 3 of us figure out some kind of design to then bring to you all to figure out, and then decide as a group if that design works, rather than working it out as a group.
Sure.
Just because I think it's really important, it's gotta be a small scope, it's gotta be something we can handle, the information that we get back from it, all of that kind of thing, and we just need to, again, I'm really into like making it manageable. So, we gotta figure out how to make it manageable and also get the information we need. So maybe that's the part that the group can help us with, what are the salient pieces of information that we need to glean from the public through this survey.
I
Okay,
think our main agenda was to just ask the broader questions, what are your questions? Like, we don't wanna know too much at this point, we just wanna know what the questions are. I think we'll have another survey down the line asking, what are your opinions? But at this point, asking opinions is something that people don't know anything much about. Is asking for, I think, trouble.
I agree with you. I think, what are your questions? What are your concerns? Because for some people, it's aesthetic, for some
Exactly.
people, it's conservation, for other
Yeah.
people, it's fish, other people, it's the waterfall.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different concern when we talk about removing those dams. So I think we could also.
Yeah.
So maybe it's
That's how we
simple,
frame it, yeah.
That's.
I think it can be. But we have to frame it and we can,
Yeah.
obviously, but yeah,
Cool.
that's the gist.
Okay,
Well,
perfect.
next meeting, we can get there.
Awesome, thank you. Sorry, it's just that we have a pretty busy agenda.
That's our fault, 42, because I know in the minutes last time, we said we would have this own agenda. And then when we made the agenda, we stuck it under your subcommittee.
Yeah.
So, poor communication. on our
Okay,
part.
no worries. It's all good. We'll get there.
So, Tyler, you want to present this one? Is this one of yours?
Sure, yeah, I think when we were working through the agenda, something that came up is we're trying to capture all these questions from the community. And this group is our members of the community, and I think one thing we had captured really was questions that this group has, and especially as this group gets more and more knowledgeable, can we propose questions that we feel we need to get answered? Or have outstanding, and I just wanted, I think, to capture those, and I think that would probably eventually go into the education subcommittee.
Yep,
And we would
Q&A.
figure out, how to best answer those as well.
Cool. So in the interest of time, because we're just a bit behind, I mean, who has prepared questions?
Who is what,
Have you prepared questions?
for this?
Yes.
I have one.
Okay. So here's how I propose we go with this. 3 of your questions, if you have 5, pick up the top 3. And if someone else has the same one, just skip your turn. And then help phrase the question. Right?
But maybe emphasize it, because I think knowing
But
the
then let's
repeat
know.
question is helpful.
Yeah, so raise your hand if you have the same. Does that make sense? Okay.
And let's not forget Rick. too.
Oh, well, let's start with
Who's
Rick.
writing
Rick, do you have
the questions
questions? Did you prepare them?
You're putting me in the.
You're muted, Rick.
You're
No.
muted.
Sorry.
Well, that's okay.
That saves us time.
We'll save this time, but if you have some at the end,
So
I'll
I'm
come back to you, I promise. Okay.
Yeah, I think it should probably be, I mean, I think this should probably be something that is ongoing as well. So if people have other questions that come up as they watch presentations or while we're in town.
Yeah.
I think that's another method of
Excellent.
capturing.
Cool. Yeah. Who wants to start? Seth.
Okay.
I'm just.
So, not really clear questions, but I'll try to keep it brief. I think asking the right question is so important. That's why I toil over it so much and have such a hard time just even like writing it down and trying several times, like one dot, start a thought, and then just scratch it out. But there's this really interesting idea out there about river classification in Maine. And the Mrcac River is a Class B river. And I just wonder, can the work of this committee actually do something to improve the river's rating? Could it move up in status to a point where it gets some protections? I'll leave it at that. It's a Class B stream. How can it get up to A, or it can't be double A, but I mean, out of the depths. So,
And we'll wordsmith. Right
Yeah,
up, the idea of the question, don't worry too much
I'll
about.
continue with
Will-
wordsmith.
Exactly.
Nothing like that.
I have the answer to that question. so-
I know you do. I learned about this mostly from an FD environmental research thing I saw online a while ago. It helped me. So there's that one. And then I really just have kind of 2 main ones. How to tie up this idea of a river that flows into the sea without an estuary. It's just almost toxic to me to think about cutting the estuary off of the identity of the river, even in concept, when we're talking about river ecology, stopping at the Montgomery Dam is problematic. That's.
But Tyler explained to us, we're not stopping at the moment.
I know,
Yeah.
but it's not consistent.
I know.
That Tyler has done it. We've all pointed it out, but then again, we get into presentations and we're like, for the purpose of the area of the concern, it ends here. And so we just have to like really talk about the river whole as much as possible. So I'm not really finding a question in there, but it's like, how did this idea gain traction and become pervasive and something to kind of redefine?
Love this idea.
Number 3,
Just 2.
just 2. Who wants to go next?
I can. So I think this is a very quick, probably yes or no question, but I've never found anybody that can answer it. Looking in the future, fossil fuels ending, and perhaps energy sources becoming very local. I am wondering if the dams in the future would be something that ends up being generative of electricity locally. That's just my question.
Can't go and visit the Seabright Dam.
What's that?
Seabright.
The Seabright Dam.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's,
So
and
maybe
I've been
a
told
new-
that it's way too small. And
A new light for the dams is what you're thinking.
But new users.
I'm wondering if that's something that we should consider in all of this discussion.
Yeah,
Don't forget, we have Ray and Susan's questions
as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
People have asked that, actually. I think one person at the tabling event asked that.
It's a recurring question.
Yeah, so not just for you, but in terms of answering people's questions, that's important.
Wonder if that could be a speaker series idea.
Yeah.
Sure, I think the history of the power of the water may be addressed by Ken's.
Yeah, we can ask him to include that if he knows. Much about it.
There's no obligation, huh?
No, I struggled as sensitive, because I'm stuck, and Forrest will probably remember this from working with me in the past. All these big words about resilience and sustainability. And I can never remember the maxim about if you don't know where you're going, you definitely won't get there. So one of the questions is, what does a healthy watershed and river look like? How would we know it when we got there? And you unpack that, questions down below that are, what kinds of things do we have to do to produce it? And then that flows into a resilience question or sustainability question. Once we get there, how do we sustain it? What are the things that threaten it? What are the things we have to look out for? What are the things that would be helpful? So, I mean, it's a big question, but I find it hard sometimes to go forward without having some idea of what these concepts actually look like. I mean, would you know? I mean, I know we can test the health of the river in terms of certain components in the water, but there are other factors that contribute to the health or lack thereof to the river. And I would find it very helpful to have somebody beyond the first presenters with their lovely drawings about ducks and deer and foxes and plants. What else do we need to know about a healthy river and watershed?
I feel like that same question would be very related.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
is, that's why,
Yeah.
it's not just struggling with the wording, but yeah, we're onto the same thing. I think.
Yeah. Courtney, wait, is it up there?
That's the gist of it.
Yeah, so when I first started hearing about this issue and got involved, I was really curious about the flooding. And studying climate change, knowing that there's all this, additional precipitation coming and how are we gonna handle that with these, aging dams and other infrastructure. So my question is, this is kind of like a two-part question. What are the current and future flood risks, like costs and properties involved? And how would these risks be ameliorated by dam removal for each of the 4 proposed dams? I mean, the Interflow is proposing. So just kind of 2 parts to that. And then how much do the town and private businesses and households currently pay in flood insurance? Just wondering that number so we can compare that to the costs of taking or removing the potential dam. And then what are the current and anticipated costs of dam maintenance for each dam?
For the flagging count, what the other question I had that I didn't mention was, what is the effect, what is the impact of dams on that bigger question about the health of the river?
Yeah.
Same idea.
I was just jotting down that we need a glossary. Because this similarly to flooding being 36 different things, removal is 72 different things.
Right.
It can be anything from lowering to completely removing. And that has caused a lot of issues in the discourse. So we should start having a glossary, help people understand.
That's a great idea.
Including.
Yeah.
Good,
That's it.
Awesome. Tyler?
I have 3 questions. The first one was that the water level predictions within the interfluve report assumed all the dams were passive elements. And so what are the predicted water levels under the same conditions when the active dams are modeled? So that'll be primarily Seabright, east and west dams with the dams with the large impoundments where you've actually can model something where you've predicted a high water event and you've let those impoundment areas down. It's a rather interesting watershed because I think it was 8% of the whole watershed is actually standing impoundment, which is like it's a huge percentage. So there's a huge capacity. So I'd just be interested to see, I know it's a very hard thing to model probably, because you have to make some assumptions about when the sluice way is opened and how much you draw the dams down. But it is certainly a practice that seems to be used, predicting high water events. Second one is, what should the lowest fish ladder, this is a hypothetical question. What should the lowest fish ladder date and elevation be? Should it be designed to support the current low tide, or should it be designed to support the predicted low tide 50 years out? There may not be a right or wrong answer to that, but
But tides aren't really an issue.
not tides, but I'm just saying
Like mean
sea level elevation.
Sea level,
Yeah. It seems like most of the fish ladders are designed to support fish access at least to the mean low tide
Right.
point. And I think on that same question, how does the efficacy of a fish ladder change with the slope angle, with the endpoint? And is it different for different species? It seemed like a lot of the original models, including some of the ones done by Chuck Grassley, was designed to optimize things. And the question is, if it's not optimized, at what point it's still good, but not the best, it's not a 400-foot long run. If it's a 300-foot long run, what does that do to passage? That's it for me.
I could not formulate this question. Very cool. Rick? Rick, anything?
He said no.
No.
There it is.
I can read, or unless you have.
I have Ray's. I'll read Ray's. He just sent today. He asked how much money has the town of Camden already spent and how much more has it committed to spend on this river restoration project? And then how much of that cost has been offset so far by various grants? Number 2, is there any definitive proof that alewives ever spawned in Lake Mrcac or swam in Mrcac stream? And I'll quickly add that we're also working on a white paper that we're just starting on that to just sort of get some documentation and who has said what and share that with you all. Number 3, what water quality standards will the river need to meet to be appropriate for fish migration? Number 4, has water and riverbed quality all the way to Seabright Dam been tested? Most especially the riverbed, as it may hold contaminants that could flush into the harbor. If there are contaminants that could have detrimental effects to the harbor, have the proper federal agencies been apprised of this threat? And then number 5, how will the advisory committee address the misleading and inaccurate information regarding flooding the Mrcac River and Montgomery Dam that is currently on the town website? And how will it provide accurate information to the citizens of Camden? So those are Ray's 5 questions.
I can read. Susan had 2. The first was, what is the root cause of flooding? So that one's.
What is the?
What is the
What's
root
the
cause
root
of
cause
flooding?
of flooding? Is it downtown dams, inadequate stormwater sewer systems, pinch points, culverts, bridges? What are the issues? What are the solutions? If Montgomery Dam were removed or lowered, would that alleviate flooding? Question 2, what changes would have to be made to the river to allow fish to reach the lake? What are the costs, ownership issues, and short-term environmental impacts? Do the benefits outweigh use?
Rick, did you hear that?
Did you say Ray or Rick?
Oh, I said Ray and I looked at you.
Okay.
Probably didn't see
Fun,
that.
Dawson. I have no idea whether he heard, sorry.
Can you repeat the last one, like a little louder?
What changes would have to be made to the river to allow fish to reach the lake? What are the costs, ownership issues, and short-term environmental impacts? Do the benefits outweigh these?
Cool,
These are really good questions.
very good questions. All right, we have 5 minutes left. So. Did we bring the parking lot?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right here. What's on the parking lot? Moving lights,
Yeah.
private property pathway break, survey development, photo contest. Well, I think, so, Rick, anything you want to share with us on the private pathway property?
No,
Okay. Okay. All right. I think. we
so
tackled
hold
the
on,
other-
and Sophia, I don't mean to be, I live about that, but is there, I know it's in the parking lot, but is it something I should be specifically inquiring about or working on?
Rick, you're the one who was wondering, how should we tackle, in particular in the riverbank, I think, project, how can we engage with the private property owners? What have other towns with river restoration projects tackle this issue? You were interested in this.
You're
There's
right.
no obligation to keep digging into this issue if you don't have time or you feel it's not appropriate. I mean, I don't want, it's your choice.
No, I'm sorry, the point of my question is more, was there an expectation I would report out on it by this
No.
meeting? And I would say, no, not right now, but maybe by next month I'll have something.
The purpose of the parking lot is that we put issues here that are not on the agenda, that maybe one of us is working as a special project like you're doing for the private pathways and the private properties. And it's just a matter of reminding you that that's something you're interested in. And maybe you can tell us, hey, don't ask me for the next 6 months because I have zero time to devote to this. But I'm still interested and I'll get back to you in September. Perfectly adequate.
Okay,
Up to you.
thank you.
I will say that it's on the speaker series ideas for like a summer walk connectivity of the river path. We talked about some potential people too.
And this may be too, I don't know if the private property one was getting more into legal questions about.
Yeah, it
That was
was,
brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this may be too kind of, the pathway may be addressed
Yeah.
separately then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I would imagine there's certainly a lot of legal hurdles and questions
yeah.
and complexities associated with any sort of watershed impacts.
I think Jeff Scott was mentioned because he was, I think, chair of
Yes.
the
Yes,
Pathways Committee, and he's currently
That's
halfway
true.
around the world.
yeah,
And I'm trying to find out when he plans to be back, but he's one of the most knowledgeable.
That's right, because we were thinking about June, right?
yeah.
And you were gonna reach out to Jeff and
Anita.
He's not on that little rock, but.
He might be, I think he was in Australia or New Zealand.
All right, cool. We're almost at time. So next meeting date, March 21st, speaker series, Mike Burke.
Yeah, hopefully as many people as possible can be here, because a lot of questions have come up about the NIPWIF grant,
Yeah.
and Mike will be there to answer them.
And then
you
April,
mean the speaker on the Zoom webinar.
on the Zoom, it's not in person.
And one thing this is a huge time commitment thing, but Mike's gonna be talking about just kind of a timeline of what has happened with the previous studies. And so there are 2 studies. There's the first feasibility study of just Montgomery Dam, and then there's the one that's across the whole river. If you have time before his presentation, it would certainly be worth reading either in full or in highlight his or their team's reports.
Let's send both names to the whole committee so we can find things.
Got it.
Awesome. Then April 4th, we have our regular meeting. And who's my co-chair?
Ellen hasn't gone yet, and we skipped over her, but I would suggest we skip her again, given her situation, and come back, and that would mean Seth would be next.
Yay,
Seth Taylor.
awesome.
All right.
I mean, Ellen would be awesome too. You are all awesome as co-chairs, by the way, because you give us feedback,
Yeah, it's been
ideas. It's really great. It's really cool. All right, any last burning issue any one of us wants to share? Share.
I have one question for Margaret. The breakwater discussion tonight, is that applicable to this group or are we talking too far out of the watershed?
I guess if you wanna.
I think we have plenty of work.
If you wanna join some entertaining Zooms or in person, it's gonna be a fun meeting tonight.
Who
What
is,
is it?
who is presenting?
See that
the
one?
breakwater?
Like me.
I guess I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're so sorry on
Yeah, I guess that's the point I was trying to make, that it's not a, I don't think there's any like real consensus around that one either.
Which is good. It's good not to have consensus.
What committee is this? Sea level rise stuff or?
The select
It's a select
board.
board meeting.
Oh, you're select board now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the break, but I think the discussion
Yeah,
is
you're-
about,
So I guess going back to 1910, people in town have talked about breakwater in the outer harbor. Oh.
I know. There we go.
So,
and that's
yeah,
not even the contentious item on the agenda.
no, that's not
No.
even contentious.
Oh, I actually think of breakwater is more consensual, has more support than we think, but maybe it's wishful thinking. Maybe I shouldn't say things like that.
Yeah, just wait a minute.
But is the intent of the breakwater has always been to mitigate storms surge
Yes, from what I understand.
to properties within the inner harbor or outer harbor?
It would apply to pretty much, because where the Army Corps did their federal interest determination it was actually two sets of breakwaters. So one from Sherman's Point, kind of over to
It's where you.
Curtis Island and, you
The
know,
world.
yeah, and then the other one was from Dillingham Point in that direction, so it would get hugely impactful on the harbor. So like I said, not a lot of,
So you're not making decisions.
a lot of divergent opinions. Well, I guess I made a recommendation. This isn't even something that we should even pick up talking about again until at least 2025, because I mean, it's hard enough to get everyone's attention for this project and to fully understand the ramifications of it. I think that adding a breakwater on top of that would just, yeah, it's just too much, way too much.
Yeah.
And also, I think what's always been the hurdle is the fact that the next stage of this would be the feasibility study, and that's, the town would have to come up with $250,000 just to do the study. And there's no grants, that's all local match. Because the Army Corps would come up with the other 250,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's always been a pretty high barrier to entry on that one. And I think it's designed that way because they really want the towns or whoever to have local skin in the game. If they're gonna do that level of time. But also, yeah, just a lot of divergent opinions and never any consensus that I could see over the years, and that's why it's been talked about since 1910.
All right, so, well, thanks Seth thanks Tyler for wishing us good wishes for this
Yes.
upcoming select board meeting.
So.
It was great meeting you all.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, so let's, before we launch into that, Rick, thank you so much for joining us by Zoom. We really appreciate your making the effort, and next time we really hope you'll be in person. Have a wonderful 2 weeks until the next meeting, until the next speaker series. Thank you again, all subcommittee members, for so much work and energy, and I just can't wait to get out there with all of you guys and, you know, put my feet in the mud or whatever it is, and put my feet in. Thank you so much. Do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting? A motion. Second? All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ray said he's signing off now, so that means he.
Oh, well, I think
He's
he
on-
watched through YouTube.
Oh, he watched through YouTube.